Okay, welcome back. We just finished our executive session. We're now back in open session. So I'll just kick things off. Jay, definitely appreciate you coming here, like we said. So at this point, I'm going to have Scott Gould, our attorney, read off the counter offer.
Okay. So the counter offer is as follows: $15,000 due and payable to the Village of Weberville by way of money order. We'd expect that by Friday. The conditional zoning remains in place as it's been, as originally drafted. But based on that, the village would not revoke the conditional zoning agreement as allowed for in the agreement for a violation of that conditional zoning for 60 days. This would give the parties time to resolve some of the more outstanding issues that stem from this property. White Rose would accept responsibility for civil infractions, recognizing that there was a violation of the conditional zoning agreement. The property is to be inspected within 5 days. That is to be set up and paid for by White Rose or Jay Rittman. And it will be conducted and performed by the agent of the Village of Weberville. If White Rose is so inclined to change the conditional zoning agreement, the original terms that we have in place, we would ask that White Rose just pursue the normal process afforded to any citizen, including White Rose, to appeal to change their zoning status. Those are the terms of the agreement. If you have any concerns that you'd like to address with us tonight, I'd ask you to bring forth now. I suspect you're probably going to have your attorney review that offer. But if there's anything that strikes you that you want the council to know, now would be the time to state your piece.
Well, what I'm not understanding a little bit is through the process, we converted Carter Lumber from, I think, B2, then we have S1, F2, and M or M1. So we did go through inspections on the buildings for that. So building, we're a little dusty as that. We had the engineering drawings and it was up to code and approved. We had certificate of occupancy through Jim Ryan. Same thing with building 1. Both those Carter Lumber had commercial properties in both those buildings. And so I'm not, in terms of what you're saying, I'm losing the F1 or F2, M1 on the buildings and all that, or they're still gonna be there?
So we don't have an F2 zoning district.
Okay.
We only have B2 and F1. Originally, your property was zoned as B1, and currently under the current conditional rezoning agreement, it's zoned as M1 with restrictions, meaning the site cannot be used as a truck terminal, a freight rail terminal, or have any vehicles with more than 2 axles, any more than 2 vehicles with 2 axles parked at any given time, and no more than 7 vehicles with more than 2 axles accessing the site.
So I understand that, but there's another thing that you guys went into, the construction of the building or something like that. You wanted it, I thought had to be up to F2 or something like that. It's not just the zoning.
So those are building codes.
Okay.
Different than zoning.
Okay, so the building codes, my concern is we did do that. So are you saying after this meeting and we agree to pay and stuff like that, I've lost all that? I have to restart that, or because how I looked at it was in terms of there's cost to everything. I spent $100,000 on engineering fees and light studies and stuff like that, which I don't know if any of you have seen before. So we did do all that. So we did manufacturing out of that facilities for years, 2016 through I think 2022 or whenever we started having problems, we pulled out of there. And so some of it is, all those codes were back on that paperwork that you read off earlier was at that time. I don't know what all the new codes were, but I know Eagle Car Wash wanted to put a U-Haul here, and everything that Jim Wright asked for was like $70,000 worth of improvements. You know what I mean? Except for they were, and so I'm trying to figure out if I have to do that again. So Little Dusty didn't have to do anything.
So when I had this discussion with Chris Corey.
Yeah.
From McKenna, you know, to get clarification on the specific request that you made, which was for the village to recognize I believe it was F2, et cetera, compliance.
Right.
In that those are building codes. McKenna's recommendation, which this board has abided by with the counter, is that since you are asking for us to recognize it, we would like to see it be inspected and verified
Oh, okay.
that those things still hold true, given that the initial work and inspection was done many, many years ago.
Sure. So, and just FYI, in 2020, Jim Wright did inspect the whole property. There was a search and seizure. And at that time, he said we're up to code. You know, just FYI, but I'm happy to go through the inspection again.
It's I would say it's a quote unquote trust but verify. You asked us to recognize it.
Yep.
This board's only willing to recognize it if it's, you know, done by a third party inspector to verify it.
Okay.
So I can reduce, if it's the prerogative of the council to go forward with this, unless there's any other objections by Mr. Rickman, I can reduce this to writing, email it to Mr. Baldori.
Baldori, please.
Okay, and I'll only take that effort after a vote with council if you're so inclined to take this off forward.
The other comment that I would make is, you know, Jay, we hear you. The village wants to work with you on this.
Thank you.
When it comes to the conditional rezoning agreement, you know, by recognition of violating that, it has to be addressed. And we're willing to work with you and give the 60 days to go through that rezoning process. I think that has to be handled in a separate discussion to understand your needs and desires for your site. But we need to address in some capacity in the near future what that site's going to be zoned as. Is it going to be M1? Is it going to be B2? Or would you like to seek us to create a zoning district that is reflective of the conditional rezoning agreement and how you wish to operate your site? So,
Well, some of that was discussion with you guys. What do you guys truly
correct.
want there? You know what I mean? Because we can just do what Little Dusty does. We do that already. I know you're in the same industry, background as me. And so a lot of the stuff is taking in used equipment and reselling them in auctions and stuff like that. Rick does by far a better job at auctions and moves equipment way faster than we do. And so we want a partnership with Rick, and you guys seem to have been fine with what Rick has done on the property.
I want to make sure that you understand, and that it's very clear to everybody that if we do not move forward on figuring out the zoning after 60 days, we'll revoke the conditional rezoning, which means it'll go back to B2, and the current industrial manufacturing activities will no longer be permitted. So that's why we need to figure it out, and we're willing to give, you and this board 60 days to come to an agreement and get that settled. I just want to make sure you understand that is part of this.
Okay. Yeah. I get that, but I was, that's fine. I understand.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for explaining.
Yeah, of course. So, are there any other points before?
I don't think so, unless anybody has questions of me.
Well, then I would make a recommendation to the council that we approve the counteroffer as read and presented by Scott Wood.
So moved.
Second,
Roll call.
Shelburne,
Yes.
Stanfield,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Schulte.
Yes. Okay, motion passes. Scott, we'll get that to you ready for review.
And thank you all. I appreciate your time.
Of course, appreciate you coming, Jay.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rickman.
You're welcome.
With that, that brings us to the end of your business and start with our second round of public comments. So at this point, I would ask if there's any public comment to please do so now.
Okay, John Leonard, village resident. On this issue here, if I may get a response to the cost for legal fees at this point dealing with this issue. Is there any way to come up with that figure? Because I'm hearing $15,000 is gonna cover this issue to make it go away. But does that take into account the total legal fees that, is the taxpayer gonna be responsible for this? Can I get an answer on that, or a response? Legal fees to this point, dealing with this issue.
It's public comment. I can try to address it in president's comment, but you've got 3 minutes for public.
So I'm hearing that there's no comment as far as the cost incurred dealing with this issue at this point?
No.
Okay, number two. I was here as village president when this village had the private law enforcement group of people. I went through the nightmares at that time that dealt with having private or other than the county dealing with law enforcement here. And I can tell you from experience that what I had in the village and the council had to deal with, it was a nightmare. One example was that is anybody here qualified to talk to a person that's looking to be the police chief here? I know I wasn't, and nobody on the council was, so we relied on Michigan State Police to do a background check. The background check came through as it was recommended by the state police on the police chief who took that position. And I just want you to know that the court records were sealed, and this man had issues with domestic violence. And he was our police chief, and we were not made privy to this closed information in the court documents. He went on to hire a person from the east, from another county, another township. And same thing, went through Michigan State to do a background check. Court documents were sealed. We did not get an accurate, both of these people had issues with domestic violence. We had a law officer here that was from the previous group of law enforcement. He was threatened that if he made any knowledgeable comments about what was going on in our houses, they threatened him. He would disappear. This police chief went on to be fired. It went on to a lawsuit that went on for quite a while. Okay, he wasn't successful in that. But we had issues of you are responsible for vehicles, purchasing, insuring, maintaining, and if that's down, you have to have some way to backfill. You're responsible for everything, maintenance, administration, everything. If that officer is off and getting training, who's gonna take his place if you're restricted on the number of people that you have? And let me tell you about getting auxiliary police. That's exciting, because these people are untrained for the most part, and they should be with officers, but we had untrained law enforcement here. We had firearms that were unregistered, that were throwaway. We had citizens being stopped at gunpoint. It was a nightmare. And I tell you what, just be aware that if the village enters into an agreement to hire their own police department, that is gonna open up a door for a whole lot of concern. And I tell you, it's a nightmare. I experienced it, and I will tell you more. There's more about this. I just caution you, and I'm just telling you that there's issues that you may or may not be aware of in appointing your own law enforcement people here. So I am going to be very outspoken about this. I'm just going to give you a heads up on that because I know what the other side of the fence is going to look like. So again, thank you for your time.
For the comments, as far as my comments, I appreciate the comment about the police. For that, I would say there's a substantial cost saving on the table that this board needs to consider. And that there are thousands of police departments in small municipalities across the country, two of which are there on either side of us, and they seem to have figured it out and do an okay job. So
Check with Oliver. He has same problems.
As far as the comment about the legal fees, Scott, it's open litigation. I don't know what the guardrails are there.
Yeah, right now, I can't give an accurate number, it's gone up for so long, but if the board is so inclined, I can definitely put a tally together where we've been at,
Which costs money.
which costs money, yes.
Yeah.
I can do it. If I may, too, President, real quick, if it adds any, I work with multiple municipalities and I recognize the concerns raised by the citizen about law enforcement and their records and bad dealings with police officers. And I think even the Michigan legislature recognized that there was something that needed to be addressed. So in 2017, Lansing put together a law called the Law Enforcement Separation Act, whereby complete disclosure has to be made from every agency whenever one officer moves from one location to another. In fact, we just had what I believe to be a pretty substantial lawsuit out of Ovid that was actually held by the Livingston County judge, affirming that position that records of police officers in full disclosure in one department to another. So I'm not trying to say you're wrong, but I think the state has tried to make steps to make sure that a bad actor doesn't move around the state. That's all.
Just everybody on this board will be responsible for administration of anything they do that gets rid of an account. And that's a big responsibility. You become the head law enforcement person in this village.
I have no further comments. Other councils, or sorry, comments from the council.
None.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I will make a motion to adjourn at 7:36 PM.
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, thank you everybody for coming.